Despite the sun, it is starting to get cold here in the Netherlands, so the orange winter jacket is back for the foreseeable future. Luckily, there are still cars that keep us warm, and in this video we're going to talk about the Polestar 3. My name is Peter, I make the Autogefuel and Autogefuel videos, and we're going to explore this car together. Polestar naming is a bit confusing because you would assume that the 3 is bigger than the 2 and smaller than the 4, but that is not the case. Polestar names its cars as they come out, so this is the third Polestar. It's based on the same platform as sister model EX90 from Volvo, and that means it is a big SUV. It really is an SUV. We already had a look at the Polestar 5 as well, which is similar in length and width, but it's more of a Grand Tourer shape car. This really is an SUV. And there is a lot to see with this car because Polestar is a premium brand, wants to be that premium brand of the Geely Group, and there is a lot of tech inside and on the outside that also comes with a very premium price tag, as we'll see in a bit. Starting here on the front though, I think the most important feature here is the spoiler. Normally something you find on the rear of a car, but here it is a full width spoiler over the entire front of the car. So I can actually stick my hands through here and meet in the middle. This is full aero on the front of the car, because of course this is the first part of the car that hits the air as you drive along, and if you can manage the airflow from the moment the car touches the air, you can clean it up very nicely over and down the side of the car. So that's important for efficiency, because this car has a 111 kilowatt hour battery pack underneath, and of course to utilize all that battery power you want to be as efficient and slippery through the air as possible. So this car has a claimed WLTP range of 700 kilometers, so in the real world about 600, and that is really impressive. Now it is a big car, and in order to keep that front also usable, there is a frunk underneath. I've popped the hood as you can see, but there's no room for my fingers to go in between the spoiler and the hood. So the opening mechanism is actually here on the side. And when we open this up, there is a nice clean area underneath here, which does gather a lot of dust. So that is a little bit annoying if you park in a street, for example, where there's some construction. It is going to get pretty sandy under here. So not ideal, but there is a big front with a sort of origami iPad style cover here, and this is actually quite sizable. I can fit a hand luggage in here, and your charging cable is no issue here either. So that's quite nice, and a nice clean way to utilize this space. I really don't understand all these manufacturers that cannot make it work somehow to make space up front. There is plenty of space, there's so much flexibility with these platforms, so you know, if you manage it properly, you can have a big space like this. Here on the side of the car, a good sense of scale in terms of how big the car actually is. It's mostly lengthwise though, 4.90 meters long, which is a long vehicle, but not very high. With my 1.83 meters, I'm still easily above the roofline, so that gives you a bit of a sense of scale. The color, by the way, is called Thunder and is an optional extra. And Polestar is always nice enough to put the battery pack, 111 kilowatt hours, and the power output, 220 kilowatts on the side. 220 kilowatts is about 300 horsepower, and considering this is the base model of the range, the single motor long range version, it's a nice balance in terms of range that you can get out of the battery pack and still drivability in terms of how much power you can actually utilize in day-to-day life. So I think that's a decent balance, but more about that when we go driving it a bit. The length is important because in the front of these cars, I mean, it's always comfortable, of course, but especially in the rear, you can really feel that stretchiness of the platform. There's so much space in the back that it's easily enough for your entire ski holiday with adults only. I fit there quite easily, as we'll see in a bit. So that's a nice trick that Polestar is using to really stretch this car out. The length, of course, comes back to bite you a little bit when you have to start doing things like parking or maneuvering in underground structures and so on. For that, it is really a lot bigger than those 4.5 meter cars that I think are the perfect balance between space on the inside and drivability on the outside. But then again, if you do have a purpose for all that space, then this is, of course, the category that you're shopping in. Here at the back, you can really see how wide the car is as well. I really like the stance on the road. It's nice to follow this car, especially at night with the light bar all the way across. It's a good looking vehicle. Another thing that stands out is the second aero element, the second spoiler here on the top. Obviously, when that airflow comes over the roof, you have to manage it back here as well for optimum efficiency, and Polestar does it with another giant spoiler. There is a glass roof above the boot for extra light inside the car, and of course you have the rear window, which is nice and upright, so that doesn't get that dirty that quickly, and if it does, you even have a real wiper, which is something I always encourage. Now opening the boot, the button is down here at the license plate, which is a bit of a weird choice. I would have preferred a button up here because obviously down here it's going to get dirty very quickly, especially now that we're in November and the weather is turning bad and the streets are getting permanently grimy and dirty, and that's even before it starts to snow and salt on the road and all that stuff. So this will always be dirty very quickly, and then your fingers are going to get dirty when you want to open the boot, so that is not ideal. But when we do open the boot, we do see quite a lot of space. 600 liters of luggage capacity, so that is awesome. That fits anything from your refrigerator to your uncle, 2 Christmas trees and your ski holiday. No issues whatsoever. And there's even a lot of underfloor storage here, 90 liters according to the brochure, so that's actually very usable in this case for your charging cable, but that also fits in the front like I've shown you before. When you put the seats down, you add another 1,000 liter, let's say, so 1,500-ish liters, then it's cavernous, and then of course the big opening here comes into play. You can really put anything in there, from your canoe to your IKEA furniture. So that's quite nice. It's everything you really want from a boot, with no loading lip or anything, some tie down points, all the things that you want. Of course, we're going to do a full interior tour like you're used to, and we're going to start with the seats today. Now, in many of these reviews, you often hear me complain about the seats, especially the fact that I usually don't really fit in them because I'm too broad-shouldered. And that sounds like a joke, but it really is. Especially here on the top part of my back, I don't fit in a lot of car seats properly. These, though, are very, very comfortable. Super nice. I fit in them. They're 18-way adjustable, and with my 90 kilos and 183, I am more than comfortable here, also for longer journeys. Earlier this week, I had to drive to the airport and back, and it's just such a pleasant place to be. It's relaxing, you get out, you're not tired. It's a very, very nice seating position and an all-round nice cabin. Everything you see here in the interior, by the way, has a special name. They even write it on the seats here. It is bio-attributed weave tech material, and this is the charcoal color. And to go even further, here on the seat, they also write us that it has 5.1 kilograms of CO2 per square meters of material, and that it is 100% fossil-free PVC. So, for the enthusiasts among us, all the good stuff. What's not such good stuff is the piano black in here. And I know you might get tired of this, but I'm going to complain about it once again. It is terrible. If you put it in a cabin, don't put it somewhere where people are constantly touching with their hands and fingers. What does Polestar do? They put it in only places where you constantly touch with your hands and fingers. So it's on the door, it's on the steering wheel, it's on the stalks, and it's here in the middle. Unbelievable. And it's such a disaster. It is not only ugly to look at, it is constantly dusty from everything that falls out of your hair and your clothing. It's constantly smudging because you always have fatty, greasy fingers. And it is too reflective. When there's sun shining through the windows and through the roof, it is too reflective to have this in the car. It is just in no way, shape or form is this a good solution to any kind of interior design. So that's my rant over. It should be banned from all cars if it was up to me. But the rest of the cabin is actually very nice. The first thing that stands out when you sit here is the feeling of width. It's a big car, yes, but it's not extremely wide or something. But in here you feel like it is a wide car. I think that has something to do with the continuous strip of interior lighting across the whole dash. That just makes you feel that the car is wide. It is a bit tricky when you first get into this car. You have to sort of get used to the shape of the car, obviously, but especially because it's wide and it feels wide, you often have the feeling that it is wider than it actually is. But it does look nice here with that strip. The only thing, when I was in the menu, I can't find any color options apart from this orange and a light color. So I'm not really sure why that is, or if I just couldn't find it. But my guess is, if we go to the menu here, the whole menu is with this orange. So I think if I go here, for example, you can really see it. All this orange is a theme throughout the whole infotainment system and the interior lights of the car. So I think that's done on purpose. And it actually, in all honesty, it looks quite nice. What's also nice is that we have normal window switches. What's not so nice is that it's only two. So two switches here, and then a button to switch the rear windows on. And then you can use the same buttons to lower and raise them. We also have a physical door switch and big door pockets, so all is well there. And speaking of the interior lighting, the door strip has the Bowers & Wilkins logo in it as well, because the speaker system is from Bowers & Wilkins. Over here, and there's a tweeter in the middle too. Very nice sound system, very lovely, good sound, good quality sound most of all, so you can also play your music nice and loud if you want to. So that's good. The steering wheel is also good. It's nice to hold with that center marking here on the top. I quite like that. But it is covered in that piano black, like I mentioned. So it's down here and it's on the capacitive buttons. Now, capacitive buttons are a disaster in general. These are not better, but they are quite limited in what they can do. So that makes it a little bit better. There's no like continuous swiping or figuring out or fumbling with the part that you have to touch. There's clear touch targets, but you have to touch it first to then see what the touch target does, and then you press it. So this one is the selection for the screen. To change it, if I press it again, it goes to the what the car is seeing through the cameras, and then it goes to your basic statistics. Voice control is there too. The one on the left is for your cruise control. So the functionality is quite basic, so that keeps it simple, I suppose. So as far as capacitive systems go, they're all rubbish, but this is livable, I have to say. The screen is small and is sort of planted in the steering column, leaving the space behind open. I'm not really sure why that is. Probably to have that continuous line for the interior lights. The vents are manual, so that is good, even though you have to adjust the rest in the menu on the big screen, because that's of course where you control the entire car. Now we have a Google system integrated, so it's super nice, fast, up to date, and everything you want to connect, you can connect to the screen if you want to. I do accept that there's privacy concerns and following concerns and Big Brother's watching and so on. Personally, I don't find that any kind of issue. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about it. But I feel that this is the way forward in terms of seamlessly going from your phone to your house, to your car, to your job and back. It's just so nice that everything connects, all your addresses are here, all your favorites are in there, your music is there. Everything just works so nicely together if you use the Google system like this. So as far as that goes, for me, it is very nice. Then under the screen, which is of course enormous, but it's sort of floating on the dash, we have a floating center console as well. On here we have currently the key that's charging. This is the key, by the way. It's just a fob, so nothing comes out. This is just a transmitter that tells the car that you're there, and then the doors open. It's currently on the charging pad that you can also use for your phone, of course. Then this whole piano black disaster, and if you want more piano black, you can even close this for an even more horrible reflective effect. Unbelievable that somebody proposed this in a meeting and got approval. It's baffling to me. But somebody did get approval for this volume knob, which is quite nice. It obviously turns volume, press for play pause, and you can also skip if you push it sideways. So that's good. Through that, there's a little gap that you're never going to use for anything because your arm doesn't fit through. But underneath this floating part, there's quite a big space for a little bag or some bottles, or my phone in this case. And there is 2 USBs here with a sort of elastic flap that you can also put something in if you so desire. Then we have a bit of storage under the armrest, quite deep actually. It goes quite far down, but it's not so big. So I think you should get some kind of divider for there, or some kind of shelf, so you have some more organization in there. And that's the cockpit. It is a very pleasant place to be. It's also a very pleasant place for overview around the car. The mirrors are big enough, but have no frame. I personally don't really like that. I like a framed mirror. But they work really well, and I have a normal rear view mirror here inside to look through the car, which is not an issue at all despite its almost 5 meters length. I forgot to mention the head-up display, also nice and clear, and of course you want that in a car this price category. But all around it is a very pleasant place to be. Despite all the grayness in here, the panoramic roof lights it up enough that it doesn't feel claustrophobic in any way, shape or form. It feels very airy in here, very wide like I said. But just very comfortable airy, if that's a term. Good place to be. And that theme also continues in the back, as we'll see in a bit. Obviously a little bit of driving to do in this Polestar as well, and you catch us on the highway already, which I think is the natural habitat of this car. Obviously no problem to do any kind of city driving in this vehicle, but it is big, long and wide. So obviously there is limitations to what is still, you know, practically usable in terms of parking and underground structures and tight spaces and so on. But here on the highway, when you have some space and some breathing room, this car really feels at home. And there's a few things to consider why that's the case. I mean, obviously it's a big vehicle, and big and heavy vehicles really lend themselves to have a comfortable cruising experience. Add on top of that that this car has 111 kilowatt hours of battery capacity, which of course is meant for long distance driving. Now, it's not the most efficient vehicle that I've ever been in. Especially if you push past 100 kilometers an hour, the consumption actually goes up quite quickly, above 20 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. But if you keep it between 80 and 100, then it can definitely go far below the 20. And then obviously your range starts to add up as well. And considering we only have 300 horsepower, I think this base version with only rear-wheel drive is a nice sweet spot in terms of power and range as far as that goes. Because obviously you can get more power, but more power requires more electricity, and then your range will drop a bit. And this is basically enough power to do any kind of overtaking, merging, or getting out of situations whenever necessary, without it becoming a complete rocket ship that you can't really use on the road anyways. In many of my videos I say that more horsepower is usually better, and I stand by that, but 300 horsepower is by no means a slow car. You're not the fastest vehicle around, but I don't think this car really invites you to be a fast vehicle. It's nice that you have some performance for overtaking and so on, but in the week that I had this car, I've never had a situation where I was like, well, I'm so severely underpowered now that I don't know what to do anymore. So I think despite the size of the vehicle, 300 horsepower not being that much, it's a nice combination of enough performance and still very good range. Here in the back of the Polestar 3, it is 10 points in terms of space. What an amount of space. It is vast back here. Obviously it's a big car with 4.90 meters long, but all that space went here. There's so much space here that there is a hand of space between my knees and my driving position, and I'm 183 and 90 kilos. So this is excellent. This is how you want a rear part of the car to be. So much space, so much room to breathe. The headroom is fantastic for somebody my length even. So 10 points in terms of design here for the Polestar 3. Now obviously just space is not going to cut it, so we have to have a look around. The first thing that you notice here, and of course the space, the physical size of the car helps there too, is the fact that it's not claustrophobic back here at all. I already mentioned it in the front, but thanks to the enormous panoramic roof, the reasonable-ish windows, and also these tiny windows back here, it doesn't seem like much, but it does make a difference. It does feel airy and light back here, also at night. So that's good, because the windows, like I said, are not the biggest, and they're also quite high. You can see they're shoulder height for me, and I'm 183 tall. So you sit low in the car, and the windows are high, so for kids that could be an issue. But because there's so much light, no issues whatsoever. Also, the connection to the front is good as far as that goes. Then I have 3 individual seats here. So the middle seat is an actual seat. Bit less comfortable than the outer seats, but still very doable. And of course, if I sit next to myself on each side, it gets a bit snug, but no, regular adults and a kid, no issues whatsoever. And even 3 adults are not a problem at all. So that is really nice. Again, well use of the size of the car. There is also an armrest, and it is the correct armrest, because they did not make the mistake at Polestar to use that generic armrest with the cup holders here that you're constantly dipping your elbow into. The cup holders come out of the front here, which is the correct way to do it, and also the premium way to do it. And since this car costs 90,000 euros as it sits here in its base version, that is something that you should expect. Now there is a ski hatch behind this flap, not so premium feeling, but at least it's covered, so any throughputing is possible. And of course this is a headrest that goes up to fully utilize the middle seat. I got some climate controls there, and also some seat heating controls, because these outer seats are heated. I got 2 USBs to charge some people, and I have some manual ventilation controls. So that's all good too. The piano black is the same issue as in the front, a complete disaster, especially with kids sitting here that are constantly smudging everywhere. This will never be clean again after you drive it away from the dealer. and the same door opening as in the front. Also the same ambient lighting as in the front with the Bowers & Wilkins logo in it. All round though, it is a fantastic back part of the car. I really, really like it. It is so spacious and so nice. And even the fact that the back of the seats is hard, which is a mistake in my opinion in general. There's so much space that it doesn't even matter. Even somebody, you know, approaching 2 meters tall can sit here in relative comfort, I think. If we look behind, you can see that the rear window is okay, nothing really more than that, but the vision from the front through the car out the window is actually quite okay. And there's even a little window in the roof of the boot for a bit more light back there, which also, again, like these, it doesn't sound like much, but it does help a little bit, which is nice because all little bits in the end add up. These windows in particular, by the way, are, you know, a bit of light, which is great, but also if you close this up, it is an entire dead black spot in your blind spots when you're sitting in the front. So that's really not nice, and this gives you a little bit extra. I mean, it's not like you're fully gonna see somebody cycling back there if you're looking over your shoulders, but it does give you a little bit extra to see out, so that is great too. Sitting here on the highway, the cruising experience really comes together. It's super quiet in here, which is of course very beneficial for longer driving. You don't get out tired or anything. The seats are comfortable, like I mentioned. It's a very pleasant place to be. Nice airy feel here in the cabin, in the front at least. And that's great. If you add on top of that the enormity of the space in the back for your family, children or anybody else, the big boot, it's such a complete vehicle in terms of covering distance. I think it's a really strong proposition. And it has to be, because this car costs 90,000 euros as it sits, and Polestar has to deliver a premium experience for that kind of money. And I think it does. All those things come together to provide a very nice and relaxing, premium feeling driving experience, which is great. I think that's something you want if you buy a car in this category, and especially if you want to spend this kind of money. Then specs and prices. Here in the Netherlands, there are 3 flavors of this Polestar 3, starting at 80,000 euro for the long range single motor like the one we have, 299 horsepower, 0 to 100 in 7.8 seconds, 80,000 euro. If that's not enough, you can go for the long range dual motor, 87,000 euro, but you get a big bump. You get 489 horsepower and you go from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds flat. If that's not extreme enough for you, you can go for the long range dual motor with performance pack. Then you get 517 horsepower, 910 Newton meters, and you go from 0 to 100 in 4.7 seconds. But it does cost 94,000 euros in base configuration. So on top of all those prices, you got to put all the optional extras. Then this one specifically, we have the long range single motor one, so the base version of the lineup. That color on the outside is the Thunder color for 1,300 euros extra. In here we have something called bio-attributed weave tech in charcoal with tectonic deco, for the people who want to be precise. There are some optional extras though. That Thunder color is 1,300 euro. There is the Pilot pack and the Plus pack for 2,800 and 6,000. There is some BPM taxes, there is some license costs, there are some recycling costs and a few other things, for a grand total for this one as it sits here for 90,750 euro. Now for that money I would not be happy with all that piano black that I mentioned, and also the button interface on the steering wheel, albeit okay to live with. It's not as good as a normal button, so those things I still would like to see different in next Polestar generations, especially that piano black. It just really doesn't add anything. It almost feels cheap. It chips away at the premium experience. So that's not good, but all around it's such a pleasant vehicle to cover distance in. So that is definitely something that Polestar is delivering on. So I think this base version is actually the one to go for over the more powerful performance models because of that good balance between power and range. And in all honesty, here in the Netherlands, I don't think you'll be ever asking for more performance than this car can offer. Now, obviously, if you go on ski holiday often and you want that four-wheel drive, you got to move up the range. But I think in general, for 90% of your driving here in the Netherlands, this powertrain is more than fine. So let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about Polestar and the premium experience that they're trying to deliver. Is it worth the money? Is it a niche brand worth considering if you're in the market for a car like this? I think so. I think this car in particular is a nice step above the traditional station wagon, but still it doesn't look like one of those tractors from other brands. So I think it's a nice mix, and personally I would buy it in a slightly darker color though, but I think all around it is a car that works pretty well if you can afford it. So that's all I got for you in this video. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you like it. We hope to drive the Polestar 5, the Grand Coupe that we saw in a previous video in the showroom already, early next year. So if you want to see that video, definitely subscribe to the channel. That always helps us out quite a lot. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers!